The Amazing Race specialists are live, and we are here to talk about The Amazing Race episode 3. And this was a really interesting one.
I really liked it. I'm really excited to talk about this. Some unprecedented things in this episode, I thought. So
Yeah,
let's talk about it.
exactly. I did write down each of their departure times, and we have a 2-hour gap between Jonathan and Anna and Han and Holden. Jonathan and Anna left at 8:31, and Han and Holden left at 10:34. And it's an hour gap between Han and Holden and Nick and Mike, who left at 9:38.
Wow.
So Han and Holden were just like an hour past everybody.
Man, and then they made up a lot of time. Like
In
this was
the soccer.
They got the right challenge to make up some time.
Yeah. So they got their clue and it said go to Kyoto. So we were going from Osaka to Kyoto now. And then once they got to Kyoto, they got a clue to go to this temple and dip this fortune paper into a river to get their next clue. And I thought this was an interesting way of including the culture into the challenge, as well as like it didn't feel like a frivolous route info. I know anybody who has been following us for the Amazing Race knows that I hate nonsense route infos.
Yeah.
And this didn't feel like, oh, we have to run around an elephant 3 times. Like this felt like something significant.
A creative way to give them their next clue. And I loved how some of them would dry up because they were taking so long to get directions that they were like, oh, here's the thing. And it had dried up. So they had to go back, write it down.
Yep.
And
exactly.
Yeah, that caused some problems.
And it was just a simple like flower arrangement on this table that was like, oh, red and yellow flowers. Like it wasn't overarching like, this is the Amazing Race. Yeah. come get your clue here. So I thought that was good too. And it did, hold some teams up because they had to re-wet the clue.
Yeah.
But that led them into the roadblock, where it was samurai soccer, and the clue is who's up for some kicks. Kyle, which one of us would be up for some kicks? I could, though I was never like a soccer person. I was more lacrosse, but
I would probably do it. I think this seems like one that I could do. I also was not a soccer person, but I think it was doable. 5 kicks, you can do that.
Yeah, and they corrected you a bit too. Like they like caught some of those wild.
Oh yeah. If they could save it, they did. The question is, would we go for the express pass?
I think depending on our spot, I think we could. Yeah. I feel like when Jonathan and Anna got the express pass, Carson and Jack were like, all right, we'll just go. I mean, being in 3rd out of 11 is still fine. It just depends on when it's been gotten and like what place you're in. If they still haven't gotten it and there's like 5 teams left, maybe you want to just go just in case because it's a little dicey. But I think at that point, if we're in that top of the pack, then I think it's okay.
We could risk going for it. That's what I like about this is that you have teams at the top and only one team is going to get it. So those other teams are wasting time, right? Theoretically, they could get it, but ultimately the ones that don't have stayed there for so long now that they've closed the gap a little bit between them and the teams in the back who they know the express pass has already gotten, so they're not going to waste time going for it. So I do like how this is like subtly closing the gap between the teams.
Yeah, and it's not like anything crazy.
Right.
So we have both Jonathan and Anna attempting it. Jonathan goes first and Anna goes second. And Jonathan is just like,
Yeah, you think
do we
you
go?
think
Do we
he
go? Do we
acknowledged?
go? Do we go? Do we go?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Poor Anna. I mean, got to be stressed enough, and then you got this guy like doubled over on the side, walking away, walking back. He's got his head in his hands. I mean, well, they seem like a strong team, but in terms of like a partnership, we'll see where this goes, because they definitely are on different pages a lot of the time.
Though they do know how to, like, I guess, communicate with each other, because Anna was like, Jonathan's pissed right now, but I'm just not going to look at him. And Jonathan's like, I'm pissed right now, but I'm not going to
Yeah.
say that I'm pissed.
Yeah,
So
they do.
there's
They do seem to have a way to handle it, um, which is good. I mean, it's working
Mhm.
for
Carson and Jack competed. Carson did it first. Jack was in the process when Anna got it. So they immediately were just like, all right, goodbye.
them. Yep.
Scott got it pretty fast. They were first, and they elected not to do the express pass. I think you also have to judge your teammates too, where it's like Lori is like, I maybe could do it if you give me a little while. But she, like, yourself enough to be like, we should just go for the win instead.
Yeah, I thought that was smart, because Anna could have gotten it faster than Lori still. Like, Lori could have taken a long time, and then
Mhm.
you've given up your lead. So I don't mind extending the lead at all, not even going for it.
Yeah. And then we have Josiah in fourth, Pops in fifth, Erica in sixth. And then I still don't know the differences between Nick and Mike and Brett and Mark.
So I think Mark is the African American one,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even know how to begin to explain the difference between Mike and Nick, because I don't think I know either.
So one of them did the roadblock. Nick or Mike came in seventh, and Brett or Mark came in eighth. And then we have Kerrigan and Courtney hit the roadblock, and they both, like, those groups pick the wrong person to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, they struggled, to say the least. I do want to know how long they were actually there for, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean they just couldn't get it. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, exactly. But Holden, they're so far in the back of the pack. When they're showing us clips of Han and Holden, like, there's nobody around. They are literally the only people racing against each other, and they're like,
yeah.
we're doing great. I thought they were going to be in the back of the pack the entire time.
Oh yeah.
But this is where they catch up. Somehow they arrive at the roadblock at the same time. So I wonder what the difference was between Brett and Mark leaving and Han and Holden getting there, because they were like, well, as long as Han and Holden aren't here,
Right. That was
we're
the whole
good.
thing the whole time, was Han and Holden. We know they're behind there, so we won't freak out until Han and Holden get there.
Mm-hmm.
Han and Holden get there, they smash it, they do it in one try, and then they're gone. So I was like, now these teams have really got to be feeling the pressure, because your safety net that you were counting on is now gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Eventually Kerrigan gets it next, and Courtney is there for I don't know how long. And they are in the back of the pack. But with this detour coming up, I feel like the back of the pack does not matter.
Yeah, not really. I mean, this detour was just crazy.
So after the roadblock, we hit the detour, and it is fold it or fling it. My gut goes to fold it. Like,
I mean,
before,
we
aside
would have
from
ended up
watching the
doing
episode,
we would have
but
ended up
like,
doing folded anyway, because
yeah,
everybody switched. I
it,
mean,
has
everybody
this.
ended up
I feel
doing
like
the
this is unprecedented
I
with,
think
like,
so too. I can't
everybody
recall.
switching off of this detour. I feel
Yeah.
like one person completes a detour unless like nobody goes to it to begin with. Like I
Yeah.
feel like there's detours that nobody goes to,
Mhm.
but 1, 2, 3, 6 teams went to this and were just like, nah, the other
Yeah.
one.
That was crazy. And oh, I had a good thought, but I forgot it. Uh, oh, yes, it made it easy for them to switch because these were in the
Yeah.
same location. So
I feel like they needed with this detour for it not to be in the same
yes,
location because I noticed
yeah,
that. I was like, "Oh, this could just be an easy switch, NBD." Like,
right.
I feel like someone like Alyssa and Josiah, they would have kept going at
Oh
Fling
yeah,
It had it been not in the same complex.
yeah. Mike and Nick, they were the last team,
Mhm,
I think, standing there, and then they switched to. They probably would have stayed. Um, and then you get Han and Holden and all the rest of the back of the pack that show up. They see nobody over there. So they're like,
mhm.
we're not even gonna try to go to that one because
Yeah.
everybody is here. Both of these seemed hard to me, by the way.
Mhm.
Like,
Fold It was, you had to fold a giant origami paper crane off a demo of a normal-sized paper crane, and Fling It, you had to throw spikes, throwing stars, and use a blowgun. And now everyone pretty much could get the stars and the blowgun, but not the spikes. And some people were hitting the spikes, then missing the spikes. And so it was very inconsistent over on
mhm.
that side. And they were all like, ooh, we could be ninjas. And then realized we
Yeah,
can't be
we can't be
ninjas.
ninjas. This was an extremely unforgiving task because you both had to get 3, right? You
Mhm.
you both had to get 3. So if one of you was good at one and one, it didn't matter. You both needed to get it, and as soon as you missed one, you had to restart. You had
Yeah.
no chances. So this was like you have to be perfect, and that's just I don't blame the teams for not wanting to do that. Like if you just
Yeah.
mess up once every time, then that's it.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes with, roadblocks like this, they'll do maybe 4 tasks, and one person has to take 2 of them, and the other
Right.
person takes the other 2, but it it was troublesome, especially when it didn't seem like they had an instructor telling them
Really?
much. There was
Yeah.
someone off to the side, but there wasn't anybody being like, "Alright, throw from this, your wrist has to turn differently," like, kinda like with, like, a show
Right.
situation when
We
you have a
saw a
dance.
lot of different techniques for trying to fling those spikes.
Mhm.
Like people were doing the 2 hands. None of it was working for anybody. This one they could have definitely used some instruction, and
It
that
was
made
like it was like the arc did well, but then if you put too much pressure, it bounces off. Like, I think it was really the pressure of throwing these spikes
yeah,
that made or broke it.
made or broke. Yeah, that doesn't sound right, but
No.
it kind of is. Yeah,
Made or braked it.
made or
Um And then over on Fold It, we have something that like a bunch of people were like, "Oh, we made paper cranes when we were younger, but we're not kids anymore," and that wasn't really muscle memory. So,
right.
it's just basically watching the demo and getting it done, like the sumo wrapping the last episode. Um, and I thought it was so fun to do it on that size, and it wasn't okay.
Mhm.
You have to make 100 perfect paper cranes or something like that, where it's like you have to make perfect amounts of
Yeah.
little ones. It's like, all right, one giant one.
Like,
Here's paper.
would you rather fight one giant paper crane or 100? I was watching this episode with my friend who is in town, and he's done a lot of origami. I still have paper cranes that he made back in high school. And he was like, I could probably do this in one try by myself. And
That's
this, yeah,
crazy.
if you have the skill, then you could do it. But I don't think
Mhm.
anybody here, like you said, some of them had done it way in the past, but nobody was like
Or, like, with a
expert or
book
hobby in this.
and
Yeah.
not yeah.
Yeah. Just watching, I feel like would be so hard. I mean,
Yes, especially because it's like, okay, you get your 3 steps that you did, and then you have to go back and watch your next 3 steps, and then go back, and you get hit with different sections of the demonstration. So
Right. They had to wait until they got back into the cycle of which step they were on. So this is another one that I wonder how long it took, because some teams didn't struggle so much, but I still have to think that this was a time-consuming task, because you had to sit and wait for the
yeah,
instructor to get to your step before you could go back and do it.
for sure. We did see a few teams, um, work together this episode, and a few of them have kind of made a vow to. So Pops, Jeff, Erica, and Melinda are kind of locked in teams together. And then we saw Han and Holden, Nick and Mike try and do a little bit together, though Han and Holden were just
Tried.
yelling at each other.
Yeah.
The
They were
time.
no help.
But I like it when teams are working together, because, it provides that dynamic that when we get to the pit stop of the big twist of the driver's seat, it's gonna be interesting with these dynamics. Will it hurt them with another team, or will one of their teams get it?
Yeah, and then help them out, I do wonder. I mean, hard to know what the driver's seat is exactly going to be. This is a new twist. I will say that we're now this is going to be leg 4. I don't feel like we've had a clean leg of the race yet. Like, we had the branching paths in episode 1. We had the intersection. We had the express pass. I mean, so that this was clean enough, but then we get the driver's seat. So it does feel like we're venturing into the territory of too much,
Yeah,
here,
right.
but
The
we'll see.
express pass was interesting because I feel like I haven't seen it used where you had to do both people had to do the roadblock. I feel like it's usually first person to finish the detour or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, it's usually something else. I kind of liked though that both people had to do the roadblock, because it was one that I think some people you obviously saw have a lot of skill at it, but maybe their partner didn't have so much skill. So it was a risk if you were to go for it. I think I prefer the fast forward to the express pass, because
Yeah,
that one's
that's
like,
so risky.
you have to do something really hard, but if you can get it, you can jump all the way
All the
up
way to the
to
pit
the top.
stop.
So, but we'll see how the express pass comes into play. Jonathan and Anna, they may not even need it. They'll probably just use it to
Use it, yeah.
just to use it. Yeah.
I also like when they win 2 express passes and they have to give 1 to another team
Yeah.
by a certain, like, within the next 3 legs, you have to give this express pass to another team, and then you have other teams buddying up to you just to get the express pass, and, like, do you give it to an ally who's probably at the top of the pack with you, or do you give it to someone toward the bottom to maybe jump them up and they're not much of a threat moving forward?
Yeah. That's like you said, teams interacting with each other, helping each other, or screwing each other over. That's a very fun part of the race. I also want to mention that, like, they introduced the driver's seat, or they mentioned it at the start of the episode. They completely spoiled who the top 2 teams were. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was like right at the start of the episode, and they were doing previously on, and then they said, and then we'll also have this new thing, and it was Scott and Lori, Jack and Carson standing there while Phil was explaining it, and it's like, he's gonna be explaining it to the teams who come in first so that the audience can see it. So I was like, well, they spoiled who the top 2 teams were in the in the first segment. It was even worse than what Survivor did last night. So yeah, that was funny to me, but oh well. Now we got this.
And we know now that there's no non-elimination legs. What are your thoughts on that?
I like that better, because you're not wondering, is this leg just going to be a waste of time? Like, is is this team going to get saved? I do like it where it's like, there is no savior. Like you are just you're gonna be done, and you don't have to do the speed bump, which is something that that's an unnecessary part. So I do like it. The stakes are higher. The intensity is on. So
the stakes are higher, but it also leaves like, I don't know, the teams that typically get saved by the non-elimination legs are fun.
yes,
So it's like
yeah.
they're not winning, but like it's just like fun that just kidding, you're still racing. So I'm pretty sure they'll have like those legs of hey,
right.
you checked into the pit stop, now keep going.
This
But
leg
with the
isn't
mega
over.
leg,
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of like the non-elimination legs because it makes their will they get to the pit stop first? Who's going there? It's like the car chase kind of worth it.
Right.
Now we know it's not worth it. Like we know these two teams aren't actually close to each other and this team is getting eliminated. So
yeah, I'm looking at the chart here for this season, and it looks like we have 12 legs.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's enough eliminations here for it to line up perfectly. I think it looks like there's one extra leg or one extra episode. So there may be one mega leg or something that comes in to where there's a non-elimination episode in a different, mechanism than non-elimination. So I'm curious to see.
With this pit stop, we have Scott and Lori in first place, taking home $5,000. That is only Lori's. Carson and Jack in second. Jonathan and Anna, Erica and Melinda shocked to be in fourth place here because they were talking about like Erica and Melinda, Jeff and Pops. They're the only two like old teams. So they are shocked to be at that top of the pack. Brett and Mark in fifth. I think they're still kind of creeping up and recovering from that last leg. And then now we have Jeff and Pops, Alyssa and Josiah. I think this detour really shook up the standings. And so next episode should be very interesting with how people, run against each other because we do have strong teams toward the middle bottom and we have perceived, maybe weaker teams toward the top. So it'll be interesting to see who can keep their lead and capitalize it versus who is toward the bottom and like that was just a blip.
Right. Kind of. Yeah, Brett and Mark are showing that they were not the reason why they were towards the bottom last time.
Yeah. Nick and Mike are in eighth, Han and Holden in ninth, Bernie Kerrigan in 10th, and Courtney and Jasmine finishing last this leg of the race. I could have predicted probably within the next like 3 that they were going to be going. So I feel like they are not long for the world. I feel like Bernie and Kerrigan, Han and Holden also aren't. But Bernie and Kerrigan and Han and Holden have the potential to be, but it's their communication that I think is really dropping both of their teams.
Yeah. We talked about Courtney and Jasmine last week. You asked because they were in the middle of the pack and you were like, do you think this is sustainable? We agreed it probably wasn't. And here it is. Communication is really like a key to the game here because the teams that have good communication and work well together know how to problem solve together. They're towards the top. And then the teams like Bernie and Kerrigan, they had a big fight last week. They just can't seem to get it together. Han and Holden, same thing this week. Nick and Mike even had a little bit of that at the detour as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just not a surprise when you look at the top and the bottom of the standings that teams that work well together are going to succeed.
Yeah. All right. So let's dive into this driver's seat a little bit. So Phil announces at the pit stop to everyone that checks in that there is this twist coming next week that is called the driver's seat. And they get to dictate, whoever gets to this driver's seat first gets to dictate how much work teams have to do to get a clue. So I don't know if it's a detour, don't know if it's a roadblock, don't know like what is going, if it's just route info, like we'll see what happens when we get to next episode, but that is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, this to me is like the rich just get richer kind of
Yeah.
twist, right? Like you're going to just push the teams that all the work to the team, which I still don't know what that means. They're going to have to do work to get the I don't know. But I think it'll more likely though, it'll be the team who gets there first is going to put it on this team right behind them. So Scott and Laura get there first, put it on Carson and Jack, who were a strong team, and try and create some distance.
But it's like all teams though.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, it's so weird.
I wonder if it's like, in Survivor when you have the rewards where it's like, okay, who gets the burger, who gets the sandwich, who gets the rice? Like,
yeah.
Is it like who gets this task, who gets this task, who gets this task? It could be something to that effect. I don't know.
Eventually, yeah. Whatever it is, I don't think I like it already. I'm interested to see how it's gonna work. But I hope it doesn't like change stuff up too much. Like a team doesn't get screwed by this. I hope it's a team that it's like, well, you were probably not going to catch up anyway. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm intrigued though.
Yeah, if one team gets screwed by the driver's seat, that is going to absolutely suck because the amazing. I mean, this season is the season of twists and turns and all that, but I don't know, man. Like the Amazing Race is trying to be something that it's not. Like we come here for good, like wholesome racing fun with a little bit of added twists, but
yeah, I mean,
we'll see what happens with the
it feels like
seat.
a little too much here. So I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. Anything else you have on this episode, Kyle?
Nothing other than the fact that I was surprised that Josiah did the soccer challenge and not Alyssa, because she said that she was like a D1 athlete in soccer. And I mean, you get the clue that says who's up for some kicks. You see these guys over there kicking around a soccer ball. Just seemed like her challenge. He did great at it, but that was
I think he got it in like one also.
Yeah,
but
I thought that was really, really funny.
And for those teams that are like, I feel like typically in the race, the teams that are male female, the male tends to do more of the roadblocks, or they struggle to find which roadblock the female will do. And so if you have them being like, Alyssa's a D1 athlete, is soccer, like why isn't she doing this roadblock? There's probably 200 other ones that Josiah can do.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And I was surprised that Jonathan did this one as well. And I ended up struggling with it, but like, I don't know. Seemed like an easier one. So if they were struggling, the reason I bring them up is because Jonathan was like, we need to figure out which ones she can do.
Yeah.
And this seemed to me like one that she could do.
Which she
Save
did.
Yourself for once. Yeah, she did. But I don't know if it counts for both of them. Like I was wondering if both of them.
I think it would have to count for Jonathan because they could have just quit.
Right.
And did and we're like, all right, no, never mind. Anna didn't. But like it's something similar to the that climb up thing that Anna did. Like they were in the lead.
Yeah.
So why not let someone who might it might not be their strong suit do it? But yeah. Well, that has been this episode of The Amazing Race. Make sure you tune in next week. We'll be live at the same time, giving you the race tea every Thursday afternoon. See you later.